Hello everyone, this is SaruiRalla's. Welcome to another Bloggin blog, because this week I didn't want to do an adventure gaming video, and well, quite frankly, I just wanted to talk about this one because I've seen some interesting stuff in the movie theaters earlier. You'll notice today, instead of my fedora, I'm sporting my brand new beautiful hooded cloak. Like I look like a real adventurer, except I look like a healer of sorts, I suppose. I'm going to take off the hood, because I don't know if this is affecting my... Now my hair looks a mess. I'm going to keep the hood up. I don't know if this is affecting my sound or not. Anyways, today this Bloggin blog is about movies and adaptations. This is going to be a two-parter video because I have one movie that I saw that I want to talk about, and I have a preview of a movie that I want to talk about in the next video. Without further ado, let's get to the discussion of this thing, and my little review and thoughts upon the movie we're in. Okay, enough stalling. Anyway, so I went to the theaters about a week ago, and I went to see the remake of Disney's The Lion King. Because I really wanted to. Like many millennials of my generation, I have seen the original, love it to death. It was my favorite as a kid. I saw the original in theaters maybe 3 or 4 times, I want to say. Maybe 3 times, and I'm imagining the 4th, I'm not sure. I can quote the movie verbatim. I've seen it that many times. I can, like, word for word. Quotes and inflections, the only thing I probably can't get right is the Swahili chanting. But yes, yeah, I digress. I even found out a little trick on the VHS on how to advance it slowly through each and every frame to observe the animation in some key scenes, just because I found that fascinating. I didn't even know that I would be interested in animation so far into this life. Actually, I wonder if you can do that with DVDs as well? Because I still kind of would like to do that, but without breaking them. I don't know how that's a thing. If anyone knows how to do that, I would be quite grateful, because I still would like to do that. But I digress. Anyway, I even watched the VHS tape backwards instead of just rewinding it. I did that in order to rewind it, watch the movie backwards and forwards. Good lord. With everything I went to that tape, I'm surprised that the VHS is still in watchable condition after so many years. I went to the theaters, I saw the remake, and now I'm about to give my review of it in sort of detail. I will warn you guys of spoilers, even though there isn't much to spoil, as everyone knows how the Lion King story goes. It's ultimately the same story, but, you know, I know that some people exist in the world that have lived under rocks, or basically that didn't or couldn't see the original for some reason or another, and maybe people of this generation whose first experience with the story is the remake, and they haven't seen the cartoon. So without further ado, let's get into it, but I will warn of slight spoilerage. So first, I'm going to go into the things that I liked about the movie, and I'm not going to give my opinion of the movie right off the bat. I'm going to put down the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, how things connect or compare to the original, and then I will give my honest and complete opinion. So, things that I liked. The animation, first of all, gorgeous. What's to expect? This movie was done by the same people that did the remake of The Jungle Book, which I also found gorgeous. The photorealistic animation was super beautiful and spot on, and the backgrounds, the scenery, the savannah, oh my god, just everything was absolutely beautiful. I even read an interesting factoid that a live-action scene was filmed and put into the movie just to see if the audiences picked up on it being different from all the photorealistic CGI. And honestly, I didn't even pick up on it when I first watched it. I don't even know what the scene is, they didn't say. But you know that next time I watch it, I'm probably going to be looking for that scene, but I digress. The next thing. The generally more serious tone, as in with many of the other remakes. There was a little more serious tone about the movie. I especially liked that the hyenas, they were, instead of being, what do you call it, laughable villains, so to speak, the bumbling, the funny, the joking, the pop culture references, the what have you, they were actually made a more legitimate and dangerous threat, more perceived threat. Plus, I liked the little tidbit of realism that they put in there without outright saying it, that female spotted hyenas rule their clans with an absolute iron fist. And Shenzi was no doubt a very dangerous leader, and I loved how her voice actor played her. It was menacing and just creepy and pretty awesome. I mean, I love the original, I love the humor, but I also go for serious things, which is what draws me sometimes to these remakes. And there was also many of the songs in the movie were word for word from the original, but be prepared, they had a new sort of original lyrics to it, which I think the same lyricist, Tim Rice, worked on who worked on the original as well as worked on the new one. So as long as the same people working with it, I'm kind of like into it, and I was really into it. Like I said, the movie has a general, more serious, darker tone, and about that, not just the songs being a word-for-word adaptation, the whole movie wasn't just a word-for-word adaptation of the original. I mean, it was true to the original, the songs were kept, but there were still new small scenes that were added, dialogues between characters that were added and changed. There were new background characters that everyone that we knew could still interact with, and it made things a little more interesting, because we all know that we wouldn't want to see a word-for-word remake of an original. We want to see little changes that they would have probably made to the story, or could make to the story that they couldn't before, or things that, new things that they thought of. And so I like that. It kept the movie fresh, and the dialogue, which, as I said, I knew it like word for word, the original. So the dialogue, even though there were some quotes from the original, it was still pretty fresh to my ears, and it kept me in line with watching the movie. Some of the existing characters were even given a bit more depth, a bit more insight to their motivations than what they could in the original movie. For example, the meeting when Mufasa goes to confront his brother about not being there for Prince Simba's presentation. The fact that Mufasa knows that his brother is dangerous, Zazu even outright asks, like, why do you keep him around? He knows he's dangerous, but he's still family, and he still wants to keep him around. Maybe he'll come around to the family, and it's just, I feel like Scar is even a little bit more sinister in his own kind of way. Like, not too different from the original, but just a little more ominous, if the word really comes to me. Probably if there are better words out there that you people can think of. There was also more insight about an interaction with Scar and Sarabi, whereas we only got like one interaction between them in the movie, like near the climax of the whole thing. Rather interesting to see that interaction, especially that Sarabi was also given a little more depth. She's the High Queen in the original. She's given little moments of awesomeness that show how tough a character she really is, but this was just a little more fleshed out, which I also liked. Nala is even given a bit more depth. She's made a little more badass, is the word I used. We really show how worried she is for the Pride, and how she even escapes from Pride Rock to go get help, hopefully beneath the notice of Scar and the hyenas. A side note about that, actually, the fact that a director of the Broadway production helped with the film. So I feel like it would have been awesome in that scene to include a movie version of Nala's song Shadowland from the Broadway production. I mean, come on, if they had Beyonce playing Nala, maybe they could have gotten more than 2 songs out of her vocal abilities for the movie. I'm just saying, that would have been pretty awesome. I would have loved to hear a movie version of Shadowland. Director's cut, maybe, please? Anyway, moving on. Timon and Pumbaa. I liked them. They're still fun characters. They throw in some fourth wall Disney humor and a few little pop culture references. And they're still very much like their original characters. And let's see, what else? Ah, yes, the music. Hans Zimmer is back to redo the musical score for this movie, and it's still absolutely gorgeous. It's chilling. It's breathtaking, especially with the visuals. It's more dramatic. Even the trailer gave me chills. It was that good. So yeah, hats off to the amazing and one and only Hans Zimmer for that. And let's see. The new voice actors. Yeah, I think they did their parts pretty well. I know there's a lot of criticism that comes forth from the new voice actors, especially about Beyonce playing Nala, which honestly I didn't find a problem with the first run-through of the movie. I might have more things to criticize for the second run-through, but for the first run-through I didn't really notice anything bad about it. I think she did the performance fairly well, in my opinion, but that's just me. And the new voice actors are pretty awesome as well. I mean, like I said, Shenzi's voice actor actually sounds sinister and dangerous, and that makes things a plus in the darker movie and darker atmosphere. And of course, the only actor that reprised his original role is James Earl Jones. And even though he's older now, he didn't miss a beat. He still doesn't miss a beat as Mufasa. Scrolling down, don't mind me. The movie in general, it's still just very true to the original, and not a word for word individual either. It still makes it a new experience to watch, a new take on the story, which, like I said, with these remakes, I find the good thing. And if at the very least we can all agree that it's a very good homage to the original Lion King, one of Disney's biggest success stories, if not Disney's biggest success story in general. And the fact that many of the original people came back to it and gave it their blessing, even the original actors gave the new actors their blessing, it really helps. It really helps to solidify the movie as a legitimate thing. Now, moving on to the things I didn't like. I can actually agree with the reviewers, first of all, that while the photorealistic animation for the animals was expertly done, movements, I mean, except for the speaking, it's hard to tell that they are honestly animated CGI animals. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. But I agree with reviewers that it still leaves a bit to be desired in terms of emotion, emoting with characters via facial expressions. I mean, with traditional animation, you can get exaggerated, very emotional, human-like moments that you couldn't really capture with photorealism, and that just kind of left a few shots and scenes looking a little bit bland in terms of character facial expression. A scene that's supposed to be dramatic is just made almost laughable. It was still pretty well done. You can still read their eyes. You can still read it in their voice. But, they could have at least, if they're emulating real animals in this, they could have at least shown emotion through the body language as in real animals. For example, in the scene when Simba is told to run by his uncle, he just kind of has a blank look as he does run. They could have actually he was scared, and he was confused, and he just wanted a direction in which to go. He was very emotionally scarred right then. They could have had the character fold his ears back, widen his eyes, open his mouth, just a little something different to show that he was, as an animal, scared. That's something that's good about CGI. If it can be altered, if it can be changed, little changes like that make it more real. They can do that even with photorealism, because animals emote more than people think they do, especially mammalians. I mean, again, director's cut, maybe just little tidbits like that. Just go back and think about where things could be emotionally better. That's only one scene that I can think of. I will, however, play devil's advocate about the photorealism. Here's my devil's advocate, point B. That's one of the biggest problems that people have had with the movie, is the lack of emotion in the photorealism. But the movie shouldn't be shot at, as a whole, just because of that. I mean, many of you are my age, you would probably recall movies like Babe, which had mostly real animals with CGI mouth movements. You didn't get much emotion out of them aside from what they could coax out of the animal themselves. But you could still show, you still got emotional. You still connected with the characters because of the narration, because of the story that was told through voice acting and music and scene direction, camera angles, etc. Same with the Homeward Bound movies, too, which had pretty much real animals with voices dubbed over them and, trained in their actions. Again, no emotion to speak of through the faces, just trained movements, music, and voice acting. But you still connected with those characters because that's how the story was told. And the same thing can be achieved with photorealism. It's just, I feel that they just gotta direct it a little better. I mean, take examples from that. But yeah, you don't need to emote with faces in order to tell a story that yanks your heart out of your chest and beats the tears out of it, really. I mean, I knew what would happen during the movie. I knew what would happen. Everyone knew what would happen. And I still let loose a good few tears at the emotionally heavy parts. It was the voice acting that sold it for me. It was the music. And the movie was still made poignant, just like the original. It was poignant. And you could still relate, in my opinion, which is why it was still good. So don't just focus on one bad thing to make a movie, condemn a movie, or don't condemn it just because you don't agree with these remakes. But yeah, I digress on that. That was my devil's advocate. You can tell a story without facial emotion, that we as humans connect with facial emotions. That's the point that they want to make. But with the different animal movies that have existed before this, outside of traditional animation and live action, you can still connect with these characters. You can still get emotional. And I'm probably not the only person to point this out. I just haven't seen one yet. But anyway, I digress. Moving on. The last part that I didn't like, and there are very few parts that I didn't like, but there were a few scenes of the movie that just felt a little rushed to me. The timing and the pace of the original movie was pretty damn awesome, I can tell you that. The pacing always seemed okay to me, at least to me. For example, in the start of the Can You Feel the Love Tonight scene, when Simba and Nala meet again in the original after so long, it still took Nala a moment to recognize him after their fight. Whereas in this movie, she hears his voice after, pinning him to the ground for the first time in what feels like years in a lion's sense of time. It may have been only maybe 2 or 3 years that he went missing, but it's in a lion's sense of time. It may have been, more than that. This is the first time he's hearing his voice again. She's hearing his voice again. She should be a little more unsure, but no, she recognizes him, right away. And I feel yeah, there should be just a little more time. It's not terribly realistic. I felt that was rushed. But the scene itself, the song, the environment that went with it, it was still beautifully done. It was still nicely done. I don't fault it for that. I just felt that the whole thing was really kind of rushed. Just a little bit, just a teensy bit. Like I said, the pacing is a little different, but maybe they had a time crunch. It's still an adaptation and they wanted to add many more things, but they probably couldn't. So there were things that they needed to shorten a little. Fair enough, but I don't blame them. But yeah, I just felt that a little bit rushed. That's a little nitpick, but it's a stupid nitpick. It's a little tiny nitpick for me. But yeah, I would like to know what you guys think about that too. Maybe you agree with me. So all in all, what do I think? I do admit that I find myself skeptical about Disney's decision to redo their classics, and there's many more to come, in fact, in live action or photorealistic animation. I mean, it feels like they might be turning their back on their roots, right? Their traditional animation. However, I don't really believe that they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, that they've run out of ideas. I feel like these are just a few people's passion projects to retell a story the way they want. And Disney do remember their roots. They still know what it takes to tell a genuinely beautiful story. They still know how to coax emotion out of someone. They still know not to pull back any punches. Disney himself said, don't pull punches, especially with children. And that's what you do with a good story. And they know this, and the new people, they learn this. And these remakes, I feel, are still just simply reimaginings, retellings, using a format that would allow them to get away with some of the things more easily in a story that they would with traditional or CGI movie. And this one, at least, I genuinely enjoyed. I genuinely enjoyed a few of them, actually, but this one, a retelling of my favorite, I went into at first with a bit of skepticism and ended up coming out quite satisfied that they made, at the very least, a good homage, at the very most, a more fleshed out, detailed, and utterly beautiful movie. So with that said, my final score, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. Would see it again? Probably not in theaters, but I would buy the DVD, and I would recommend the movie to anyone if they want to see a fresh take on the story. It's good to hear people's honest opinions. I mean, you don't even have to take my word for it. I'm just putting my thoughts out there too. But it's best that you see things for yourself and judge it. So if you don't like it, it's not like it's replacing the original either. You still have the original, and you can still enjoy the original, and even, who knows, just pretend this one never existed. I don't know, but I felt this one was pretty well done, and I really liked it. So yeah, that was my review on the new Lion King adaptation. And speaking of adaptations, part 2 of this video, next time, I will talk about my reaction to the trailer of a movie that I saw while waiting for the Lion King. The trailer of a certain Broadway musical brought to movie adaptation. That's right, I will be telling you guys what my initial reaction is and my feelings toward the Cats movie coming out in December. So, until then, I hope you enjoyed my little vlog. I just wanted to do a little something different, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. So yeah, with that said, this is SaruiRalla's, and have a good one, keep adventuring, bye-bye.